happy hour. I'm starting it off with some water. I'm probably gonna stick with some water. Exactly. Stay hydrated. Pressing times, not
We're
to.
not getting crazy here.
Yeah. Again, this is a Black Tech
So
happy.
Matthew and I, this is happy hour right here.
Yeah, this is definitely our happy hour. hmm
So Matthew, what are we streaming on?
We're streaming on YouTube. We're streaming on IG. We're streaming on Twitter. Shout out to folks tuning in. This is our Black Tech Columbus happy hour, so feel free to ask us questions. Doug and I we'll be talking, we'll be answering them. We'll just, we'll be here, just showing our faces, letting the people know that we appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and rocking with us on our 2-year anniversary. 2 years in the bag.
It's amazing. We're still alive.
So,
are you taking questions, Matthew? Can I ask you questions?
you can, Doug. You can ask me questions. You can do.
All right. We'll
Yeah.
get a better question. I'm going to ask you some questions. So,
All right.
did you think that it was going to turn out the way it did when we first got together and started talking about forming Black Tech Columbus? Did you envision this that we have right here?
No, to be honest, no. I didn't envision this at all. It's really wild. Oh, what's up, Don? Don said, what's up? I didn't envision this at all. And there's probably a lot of people who don't even know how this formed. I can give it from my perspective of how this formed, and I'll kind of let you give it from yours. But it was in 2018 when, I was, doing some work for the United Way, heavily involved there. And I got asked to meet with this fellow. And I'm like, what? And they're like, oh, yeah, you meet up with him in Dublin, do this, do that. And I'm just like, Dublin? And I've never been to Dublin outside of a sporting event. So like I did middle school, high school sports. The only time I've ever been in Dublin was for an athletic event. So I'm going to Dublin for leisure for the first time.
Right. And like Shadow Lane, no less.
Yeah, I'm a West Side kid. You know what I'm saying? We don't venture off much.
Get you a latte?
Yeah. What we do is not to Dublin. What's up, Thomas? Thomas is on too. But I pull up there and I'm like, this dude, Doug, what? I see you in your chopper suit, like we back in the 90s, and we're having a conversation, and that's when we kind of discovered like, oh, I work in tech as well. You work in tech. We were there for a different reason for United Way stuff, but we ended up talking about tech stuff. And the conversation came up about how, I was fairly new to tech when, I go to conferences, meetups, different user groups, different events. There was no representation. And I mentioned that Kaleem and I also, shout out to Kaleem, today's his birthday, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Kaleem.
MIA. But I was telling Doug, like, yo, me and Kaleem been working on some things. We're getting a list of Black technologists. And Doug was like, yo, I've been, having these same conversations with people behind the scenes too. So you get your friends, I'll get my friends, and we'll be friends. And so Doug was like, I'm about to have a meeting. And he invited Kaleem and myself, and we pulled up that first day, July 31st at Perscalis. And out of that was Black Tech Columbus, and we're 2 years in, which is pretty fire if you ask me.
Yeah, definitely. So you and Kaleem were kind of the last ones for me. I had heard from some other people, and like you were having these conversations, and I had 3 or 4 people, but you brought other people in relationships as well. So there was no need to keep on collecting. And I had Thomas's on. I had conversations with Thomas. We had met at the CIO Tomorrow kind of thing. And I had conversation with Dawn, who's on over there as well. And I had a conversation with Marcella McCurdy joined me at the CIO Tomorrow event. And we had a conversation and just sort of talking about what's going on in the Black tech world. And there were multiple visions, and that's what I think we can celebrate at our 2-year anniversary. And a lot of people don't know that because typically we give the short story about how we were founded. You know,
Yeah.
we got together, we agreed on a vision and a mission. We started it, let's go. But there were a lot of visions in the room, and they were common, but everybody had this perspective of saying what we needed to do, not just us as founders, but what our community needed to do to make a better place and a working experience for ourselves. But I keep coming back to connect, collaborate, and create because at this point we're starting to create, and we've said it at a couple of events that we're encouraging people to go out and start a company, start an organization, start a new network. You know, here comes Denisha, and that's starting to happen, and I'm really proud of that. So, you know, it's been an amazing ride so far.
Absolutely.
Hey, Denisha, welcome in.
Hello.
Welcome in. Hold on 1 second.
So, Denisha, we're just chatting, enjoying our happy hour. I don't know if you have a beverage.
I don't. I'm actually multitasking right now.
Okay. So we are streaming live, and Matthew and I were just reflecting on our founding. So
Yeah.
we're still up. So Denisha, do you have any reflection on how we were formed? And what I asked Matthew was, did you picture that it would be like it is now when we formed the organization?
Catch me a little off guard. When I reflect on how we formed, I think it was, it's just interesting to look back. I don't think that I really expected us to be where we are today. Not to say, I don't think I had any expectations, really. I just thought it was a cool idea, something that needed to be done and something that I wanted to be a part of. And somebody may have said this already, but I just always think about how our initial goal was like, hey, if we can bring 10 people to a room, like that's success for us. So to be able to see how we've been able to meet and exceed those 10 people, I think it's just exciting, and it proves that there is a need and that things will just continue to grow.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm.
All right, I got another question. You ready, Matthew?
Hold on. What's up, Jerry? Jerry's tuned in.
Hey, Jerry.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Just tuning in live from Twitter. Again, this is just the Black Tech virtual, happy hour. Just having some conversations, talking, connecting with the people, sharing stories in honor of our 2-year anniversary. Doug's been, interviewing us, so we're gonna let Doug continue keeping on.
Jerry, think about it. Jerry, think about your answer to this question too, and post it up there so we can read it. So, have you met somebody new through the Black Tech Network that you would not have met if we didn't have our events?
Absolutely. Just even from a founder's level, like I didn't know Denisha. I knew who you were, Doug. I knew who Kaleem was. I knew Tony. I knew Kim. But I didn't know Denisha. I didn't know Jar. I didn't know Thomas. And that's just within the board. Outside of that, it's like, I didn't know Bo. Bo's pretty dope people. Jerry's on. He's tuned in. Me and Jerry didn't know each other. And so it just connected a lot of different people and cultivated a lot of pretty dope and amazing relationships that otherwise would not have formed had this community did not come together in the way that we did. So absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't know Bo either. I don't know if Bo is on or he'll watch later or whatever. We talked about Ernest Boateng. If you guys don't know, he's an amazing dude, and a lot of people like that. And then other organizations that we've met that I don't know that they would have engaged with us because, our theme from the first conference was we're here, and there was no way to find us. We weren't organized before that. So that's amazing. What about you, Denisha? Do you have anybody that you've met that you wouldn't have met otherwise?
Probably most of the people that I know now in Columbus, period. I'm not from here. So the most people that I knew had been through work primarily, which we know a lot of times are not people who look like us, which is fine, I guess. But to that point, I've always been someone who's been super passionate about just networking in general. And I think that like this, being a part of this organization has just proven that much further, like how important it is to network and how, I want to say easy, how easy it can be to meet people. If we're talking about, from a career standpoint and from a professional standpoint, I mean, a lot of the opportunities that I've had and, will hopefully have in the future have come from being a part of this organization and being able to say that I've been fortunate enough to do this work with this group. So, I mean, to answer your question, no, I wouldn't know anyone probably. And I just encourage anyone who's a part of the group to take full advantage of kind of what we created, which is pretty cool to be able to connect with people, especially informally. And those people are people who impact what you do on a daily basis.
Yeah, definitely.
So how about you, Doug? I'm gonna flip that question.
Oh yeah.
I know like you're the dude out there, like you that folk out in Dublin and you're really crazy. So have you met folks or, come across folks that you wouldn't have known outside of Black Tech?
I think so. There's people who know me or know of me through Black Tech Columbus. And it's interesting. That's a blessing. I really appreciate that. I will always try when people reach out to say, hey, I would love to talk to you for a little while. All of us are busy, and I encourage all of us to have the same attitude. If I can do it, I'm going to try to do it. I'm going to try to actually get to know another person. And I think as Black technologists, we have to do that. We cannot afford to just be heads down. I get up, I go to work, and then I go back home again. And that's okay a little bit, but here comes Charlotte in here. But you have to take the time to sit and talk to people, especially if they're trying to network. It's hard to network, and it can be intimidating. I don't think I'm intimidating, so I try to fulfill that. When people say, Doug, I'd like to talk to you, I'd like to meet you, I want to make sure that they feel comfortable that you should always go talk to a CIO and get to know them a little bit. Don't be intimidated, because that's just a skill that we need to have. And I want to encourage people that have walked up to me and gotten to know me. So I will say Charlotte Chang just got on here. I wouldn't have known Charlotte if I had not been in the Black Tech Columbus network. We might have run into each other at some other point. But so Charlotte, we are reflecting on our 2 years here and just sort of asking questions of each other and everything. So that's my answer, Matthew.
Mm-hmm. And I will say, like, for those folks who, can be somewhat intimidated by folks in CIO positions or even exec positions, it's been really funny and a dope experience to watch you like turn it on and off, Doug. Because I know we have jokes and we're like, oh man, like he's in Dublin Doug mode. You know what I'm saying? You got to straighten up your shirt. You got to roll your cuffs, get your press on.
Tighten it up, man.
Like,
tighten it up.
Yeah, tighten up. But then it's like when you turn that switch off, it's like, man, it's Doug. That's Doug.
Another person, just another person, man.
Yeah.
I think that's like one of the most like, I don't know, fun or exciting parts or things that I've kind of learned as by being a part of this organization. And again, like being able to interact with people like Doug who are CIOs or vice presidents or whatever in an informal way, because I think that that's the most natural way to build relationships with people versus like wearing a suit and being like, hello, I would like to talk to you. It's just like weird. It's not natural. And if it's forced, it doesn't work. But for me personally, I think about like the level of growth that has provided for me, because I mean, when we started Black Tech, I had just started working for Wendy's, and I had just left another organization where I was pretty much in sales, and was essentially told like you are not going to, like, you're not good at getting in front of people who have influence, essentially, which is funny now, just considering the amount of that I'm able to interact with those same types of people that I was told I wasn't going to be able to talk to. So, I mean, it's one of those things where it's taught me, so much personally and professionally, which in turn has increased my confidence, and then made me more passionate about bringing other people along the way, because to your point, there's so many people who are afraid, and understandably, but are afraid to talk to or approach certain people just because of their title. And it's like you said, at the end of the day, like, these are literally people, and they're probably tired of having people come up to them and awkwardly ask them weird questions about their career journey. So it's been impactful, and that's one thing that I really want people to take away from what we do. And I hope that we can continue to encourage that kind of interaction, because I think that's where people grow self-confidence too, right? So a lot of random things I've learned.
In that first meeting, the first gathering that we had over at the Forge, one of the things that we talked about being an authentic place, we said, use your real voice. You know what I mean? Not the voice that you wear so that you can be successful at that job.
Right.
Wear your hair the way that you want it. Let's eat the food that we like. Let's enjoy our music. And that has freed me up a lot to be able to, I can be around people and say, I'm Doug, the CIO. But here at a Black Tech Columbus event, I'm just Doug. So you're right, Matthew. Sometimes I got to turn on that CIO guy because, someone got to pay the check or something.
I know. I love it though. We definitely be making jokes like, "Oh, we about to get doubling Doug today."
What are we gonna get today? Which Doug is coming at us today?
It's fire though. And Jerry mentioned up in the comments. Jerry said that a majority of his founding team on Renter Mentor throughout Black Tech, and so he said, his first developer and his first kind of the first team of people working on the Renter Mentor project and app, they're from the Black Tech community. So that's pretty dope to see that, connecting different founders and startup folks to Black talent in the Columbus community. So that's pretty dope. Shout out to that.
And let's say hello to Charlotte. Charlotte, what's going on?
No, what's up, Charlotte?
Hi, good evening. I'm so excited that this event is happening, and there's a reason for this event. I'm really, really excited about it.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah. And I guess I wanted to share one thing that I think is something that really stood out for me. And I wasn't able to attend this event because I wasn't able to, but this is before I was associated with Black Tech 614, and you all had a holiday party. And it was a themed holiday party, and I was just so excited. I really had wanted to go, and the reason is because, so I think it was what was it? It was like holiday in Wakanda, or it was like Christmas in Wakanda, or something like this.
Christmas in Wakanda.
Yeah, and this is, so obviously that sounds amazing and fun, but this really was like thoughtful for me because it's a thing, like growing up, like Halloween is like a thing, and you want to be able to dress as characters, right? And it's, sometimes it's hard when you don't have a lot of diverse characters to choose from. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is like such a wonderful organization.
Yeah. And we had a ball too. And the first year we did Christmas in Wakanda, we had people just dress up in your best, Wakanda outfit. We know that there is no real Wakanda, so we wanted to make Wakanda real for us. And we love the theme of, a technologically superior place that, people are being very natural with that. And anyway, we all responded to that. So very cool.
Yeah, it was fun. So Doug, and I'll let Denisha and Charlotte think on this as well when it comes to questions. What are you looking forward to most in year 3?
That's a good one, Matthew. So what Matthew and I know right now that everybody else doesn't know about all the announcements that are about to come out is that Black Tech Columbus is bearing fruit. And we have to change. We have to grow. We're having some success. And in the wake of some of the protests that we have, we're getting even more attention and requests from organizations who really want to interact with us. And that's a good thing. So what I'm looking forward to is some of those relationships coming up. We have a maturity and a credibility right now in the community, in Central Ohio especially, but it's coming around to the rest of Ohio as well, that there are some opportunities right now that are about to pop. And so we're really looking forward to that. So that's what I'm most looking forward to in year 3, more businesses being formed from members of the Black Tech Network, more nonprofits, more initiatives, more people getting hired. We're starting to work with colleges a lot more. So we started some of those relationships like with Central State University, and now we've been talking to Denison University, we've been talking to Franklin University, and hopefully very soon we'll do more with Otterbein, and that's a big deal. And so since we put out our call to action, our adoption of schools, our access to capital, some of these things, all of them are going to bear fruit in our 3rd year. And maybe some of them will be at just the beginning, but I'm really excited about beginning to see where we were crawling and now we're walking and we're about to start running. So excited about that. And hey, Dawn, nice to see you. Dawn's joining.
Mm-hmm. And absolutely, I agree with that. There's definitely a lot more opportunities that are taking form, and a lot more seeds are starting to harvest, and there's going to be a lot. I'm excited for that as well, and just the community collaboration and other organizations wanting to contribute and, you know, provide us with the ability and voice and visibility in a lot of certain arenas in the community. So that's something that I'm really excited about for year 3 too. I'm sick though. I'm sick about this pandemic because a lot of in-person things that we wanted to plan and have planned out, those are now gonna have to be virtual, and it's very difficult to really like sink those connections in and solidify those relationships, you know, via the virtual world. And so it's just like, man, I'm bummed out about that. But we're gonna do what we can to still provide a great experience for the people virtually. And we're just gonna ride this pandemic out and just know that first like year we're allowed back outside, which might not be for a while, by the way, which is very heartbreaking. But we're gonna do some big things and I'm excited for that. But year 3, just continuing to cater to and build these relationships for year 3.
So, hey, Dawn, say hello to the people.
Hello, everybody. I'm so sorry I'm not on camera, but not quite camera ready. How are you guys today?
Awesome. Just reflecting on our 2 years, enjoying. Yes. Matthew and I have water for his happy hour. This is what makes us happy. Yeah, you can have whatever you want to drink.
Well, I'm actually drinking water too, but I've got I have a soda stream, so I've been all over the place getting the canister for the sparkling water. So I'm enjoying my sparkling water because they have been out of stock. So yay. Okay. How are you, Charlotte?
Hi, Dawn. I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
Hi, Cynthia. I'm great.
So Dawn, we've been asking questions of each other.
Mm-hmm.
How has being a part of Black Tech Columbus impacted you personally, and then also your career?
Well, that is a very interesting question. And I was listening along with Denisha before she called in as well. She said, Black Tech Columbus was an organization that kind of, you hit it right on the head when you said authentic collaborations, be your authentic self. I was someone that I had a lot of training, working with getting certifications. I thought I was going to be a system administrator, but every time I worked with groups, people were like, you should be a BA, you should be a project manager. And they saw things in me that I didn't see. I looked at myself as a technician and somebody that was exact in their craft, and just there's a certain gratification that you get when you're with a buck stops here with me. I'm a problem solver. And when I was transitioning into that world of being a business analyst, being a more strategic part of IT, the business part of IT, I was in the CIO of Tomorrow program, and I met you there. And just the way that you spoke and how impassioned you were, Doug, it was authentic to me. And I was somebody that, like Matthew was saying earlier, like, tuck your chin and can't do this. As a female, I didn't feel comfortable even wearing my natural hair to work. I wore wigs for years to work, and when I saw you, there was a connection there. I met Angelo Marcoso, a CIO in Columbus, being part of that organization. And he told me, we were sitting down, like Denisha said, like a lot of these interactions aren't happening in an inorganic way. They happen in an authentic way. We had lunch in North Star, and he said, who would you like to meet? And I'm like, Teresa Harris and Doug McCullough. And he hooked it up. And you and I had a conversation that kind of hit me in an authentic way. You understood what my experience was like, being the only Black person in the room and not being really powerful enough to help other people along and develop people in the workforce. And that's what our conversation was about. And, fast forward to now, I work in workforce development for the state of Ohio because I met Irvin Rogers, a CIO of the state of Ohio, through you. So that's how Black Tech Columbus has impacted me personally and in my career.
Yeah, so Dawn, I keep you in my heart. You are my heart. When you talk to somebody and they're affected by you, you got to remember that you're also affecting them, and or you're being affected by them. And so that's how I feel. When we have these conversations about being authentic, we are mentoring each other and we are supporting each other. And so that's a big thing that I've gotten from the Black Tech Network. I hope everybody else has as well. Like when someone's telling you something that helped them, they're also helping themselves. Mm-hmm. And so, I get an extraordinary amount of fulfillment from our conversations. And I'm talking about everybody, not just those people who are in this Zoom right now, but some of you who are watching online who come to the events, and we sit down and we have that slice of pizza and we just have a discussion. That's what Black Tech Columbus was supposed to be about as well. An opportunity for you to leave maybe your work team and come out with some other people and sit down and just talk about what you're feeling about. So that's wonderful.
And Dawn, you said something too that I want to acknowledge. You said something along the lines of you weren't powerful enough, or like not being powerful enough to do XYZ. And I think that is a good point, because I think for a lot of us, it's not that we're not powerful enough. It's that we don't realize the power that we actually do harness to actually do it. And I think, again, that's something that I've been passionate about, making sure that we implement. I know everyone's been passionate about it, but thinking about like our learning community series and how we typically try to target people that may not have otherwise had an opportunity to present publicly or to like work on those types of public speaking skills and that sort of thing. And I think those types of experiences and putting an emphasis on the way, again, how we are authentic and the way that we interact with our members, really, I think it empowers people to find that they do have the ability to impact other people. It's not a matter of really not being powerful. It's a matter of not knowing that you are powerful.
I totally agree with that. And when you were speaking, it kind of put me in the space of being in one of, again, Bo's coding classes, and just seeing how accessible he made that information to people, how powerful that was, and how that was like a non-threatening environment for people to say, hey, I don't know. Like, and we're, helping everybody with everything from logging into a VPN and log just that part. Not before we even get to the coding, and they feel comfortable enough to tell us, slow down. what is this? I don't understand that. And to me, you know, that is powerful, because education and knowledge is power.
Exactly.
And when you don't have access to that, like, you know, just being able to provide people access to that, like, that gives me so much personal fulfillment. Like, and I think that was one of the things that really attracted me about our group, is that it wasn't just about us as individuals advancing our career. It was about us collectively helping other people to be able to promote themselves in the workforce. And just with the other soft skills that you were talking about, like talking with CIOs, and different communication and presentation skills. Like, I feel so blessed to be able to provide people a platform for that.
Exactly. And like for me, like in the beginning, a lot of it was around that time when I was trying to make a career move. So a lot of what I was doing was, I mean, selfishly, so that I could get experience and so that I could, you know, I was trying to do whatever I could do to get ahead and get where I wanted to be. And joining this organization, being a part of this, has made me realize that, okay, you can do that, but also you have the ability to help other people too, and to bring other people along. So it's not that I was selfish, but I think I didn't think of it in the sense of like, oh, I can actually help other people too.
Yeah. And that was the most alluring thing about it to me, because where I came from, just the places I worked at, a private sector, it was so, Dawn, you can go, but not anybody else.
Right.
Like, you're good at it, but forget about them. And it just did not sit right with my spirit. And I just am very grateful that the way everything worked out, like, I got to do something that I get to work in my field, but I get to do something that means that hits me authentically with who I am, like, now. So I just appreciate all of you for that. And everything that everybody has done the last 2 years to contribute to what Black Tech 614 is. So thank all of you, the co-leaders and founders, for keeping us who we are and making us who we are. So thank y'all too.
Yeah, thank you. I got to give a shout out to Evelyn Van Til, who's on watching, because Evelyn is one of those strong friends. Like, if you are going to fight, you want Evelyn there with you. Because Evelyn's going to got your back. And she's been a part of organizations that have supported Black Tech. She's there at the table speaking. Evelyn, you know, we want you to know how much we appreciate your strong support, your unequivocal support, and the way that you don't play around, and you're not wishy-washy or anything like that. You're very clear, and you have brought a lot of great relationship to Black Tech Columbus, and you've been there, you have been present. So, you know, you're one of the people that I'm thankful to know kind of through this network. And thank you for being on. I hope you're enjoying this moment as well as us. So.
Absolutely. For those of y'all tuning in, this is a Black Tech Columbus Happy Hour. We are celebrating our 2-year anniversary today. Woo woo. And we're just, you know, reflecting, going through questions, answering questions, asking each other questions, and I'm just breaking bread and taking a minute to reflect. And you can see your happy hour drink of choice is water. Stay hydrated. Now this is good stuff. Additionally too, share the flyers. We have a few flyers that we presented throughout the week. We're doing some Black Tech giveaways. This is our plug real quick, kind of like our ad. You share a flyer, you'll have a chance to win a $25 gift card, and then a grand prize winner will be selected to win some an Apple Watch, Bose headphones, and then an Amazon Alexa speaker. So share any of the things that we've been posting and tag us, make the hashtag Black Tech 614 giveaway. That's our plug.
Today's the last day to enter, so make sure you do, because I know I'm entering, and just, that's all I'm going to say.
I need an Apple Watch.
I fought so hard for that freaking Apple Watch, and I'm not even going to get to have it.
Yeah, yeah.
We're gonna make sure you get an Apple Watch, Tanisha. Let's take care of that.
Okay. I'm gonna
Uh,
mark those words.
so crazy question for you all. So when the protests have been jumping off, we have all heard from a lot of people who seem to be having an awakening and want to talk. So have y'all had that experience where people in your organization really want to come to another place that they weren't in before, and how did you deal with that? Let me ask you, Matthew, first.
I will say, and this is not in any way, shape, or form an exaggeration. I think 3 days after everything happened, I had probably about 11 people reach out to me. But then a week and a half to 2 weeks after, when corporate companies started sending out their statements and, doing what they do, I think I had about 30 people call me, email me, reach out to me on LinkedIn, do all of this stuff. And it was overwhelming, yo. I was just so overwhelmed. And then a lot of things internally started buzzing up, and they wanted the Black voice to be heard. And so it's just like, it was very overwhelming. I think I handled it all right. Some conversations I was very generic in my response to. Others I actually took the time to curate that dialogue for or with. And then other instances was just kind of like, I was kind of annoyed. And so there's a lot of different mixed feelings regarding the outpour for, the injustices that have been going on. And the one thing that like folks always said was just like, oh, we're just finding out, this is so shocking. And I just every time responded with, yo, I'm 27 years old. I've been dealing with this for 27 years. Like, yeah. And so it was very overwhelming. It makes you like happy and hesitant at the same time. Like, it makes you happy that people are starting to wake up. It makes you hesitant because people have had their whole time. They've had way more resources than I've ever had. They've had the ability to do X, Y, Z way beyond what I've ever had. And now it's just like, what? So now it's just like, how do I know it's really authentic? And sometimes there were some people where I was like, look, don't do anything. You don't need to write a check. You don't need to do this. Just sign petitions, help fund the, different pools of money to bail folks out, bail protesters out, and then just educate yourself. You don't need to do this grandiose gesture to let people know that you're a cool ally. It's like, no, like, do the basic fundamentals and like learn a baseline, understand that, yo, me as a Black man, I did not have any weight in structuring the police force. I didn't have any say in structuring the corporate hierarchies. I have no say in the hiring practices to get people jobs. So when you come to me and ask me for help on these solutions that I did not create nor have a say or weight in, it's just kind of like, all right, go educate yourself. And because you definitely have more power than me, being a white executive in a company that could set initiatives to hire people. I do not have that kind of pull, nor power, nor influence. And so it's just...
You're gaining it, though.
Yeah, oh man, not yet. And so it's just...
I mean, but the funny thing is that we begin to have influence because people reach out to us and ask, how should we change our hiring practices?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And suddenly you have a voice. So is that Tanisha?
Yeah, I was saying like they could start by hiring, the person asking instead of getting free advice. But aside from that, I would say that the term awakening is like kind of disturbing. It's kind of disturbing because, I mean, what are you awakened to? Like, to Matthew's point, like, this is not something that is new. And I think because I am a skeptic by nature, I'm just very skeptical, and rightfully so, of like, especially on LinkedIn. So like these are things that are typically maybe taboo to like talk about on LinkedIn, which is supposed to be a professional platform. And I mean, in my mind, all of a sudden, all of these companies, all these individuals are, you know, magically awakened to the idea that racial injustice exists in America. So, I mean, it's a little bit disturbing, to be completely honest. And I think one of the biggest things that I've drawn from it is it's hard to be, it's easy to be hesitant. To me, it's hard to be happy too, because while it's like, yeah, okay, maybe now, you know, people are getting promoted when they should have been promoted already. So that's exciting. Representation might be increasing. It's just like, I always come back to the idea that you can't really fix the problem if you don't understand how you got there or why you were there. So it's like, okay, all of this stuff is happening, and now we want to promote all of these Black people into leadership roles. You can't, that's good, but like you're not really making a change if you don't acknowledge why you didn't do that before. Like there wasn't a light switch that you flip and it's like, oh, all of a sudden these people have the skills we need, you're ready to go. Like those skills existed 2 months ago as well. They're not new. So I mean, for me, this whole awakening is like, I'm happy it's a phase. I just hope that something sustainable will come out of it.
Yeah, no doubt.
And
Go ahead, Tom.
And I just kind of look at it as a moment of clarity and revelation, in my personal opinion. I'm been in the workforce for a long time, and I'm somebody who was in the military. I worked at a Honda plant that was out in rural America. I've worked in data centers with blue collar skilled people, and the things that came out of these people's mouths throughout the years of my IT career is appalling and offensive. But I do not think in those timeframes, people knew how to deal with those type of personalities and those type of people. And honestly, I think the racist culture in this country is so prevalent and so second nature that it was just something we were just made to accept and bat our eye to and keep it moving and just ignore some of the comments that were made about us, around us, inferred to us, especially in, you know, a red county out in rural Ohio. Like the type of stuff that I experienced at work, if I was to talk about it in 2020, I could get a lawsuit, I think. And I'm not saying that to threaten one, but it is really rough. I can only imagine what Black men experienced working at some of these places, being the only Black man in the time frame where you could not say anything. I think this is a time frame for us to be able to, as Denisha said, why weren't we included before? I know exactly why we weren't included before. Is because we were systematically left out. That's why. So it's like now is a time for us to continue to build on the pressure that we've been applying to get equal access to opportunity, because at the end of the day, the reason that we couldn't have these conversations before is because we were looked at as not equal, and we did not have the same access to education, generational wealth, and economic and cultural just disparities have kept us back for so long. And I honestly think these allies, I got a lot of people that reached out to me I think that it was amazing because I know how hard it was for them to stand up to their uncles and their daddies, because I know how racist some of these people really are, because I worked in very white male dominated places where they did not have to be accountable for what they said and what they did. And not only are they racist, they're sexist, they're mean to each other, they abuse power a lot, and we get the shortest end of it because we have the least access to power. So I think this time is a time of revelation and a time for us to plant seeds to kind of not eradicate, but to bring accountability for everything that we've been left out of all these years. So I hope more people feel free and open to say something they know what's in their families more than we do. Like, and
Yeah.
I just hope they keep their accountability on their family members and their cousins and their uncles and their fathers. And we can continue to do what we need to do politically and socially as a collective to keep moving forward with our agenda, because we've never had a moment like the one we got right now. I'm in awe of it, honestly.
Mm-hmm. There's a kind of whiplash that happens as well, Dawn. I think you agree. I think we all agree that you're in the process of trying to survive, and all of a sudden somebody walks up and gives you a piece of cake, right? And it's like, oh, and then they ask you, isn't it terrible how you've been treated all this time? And have some cake, and you know, you kind of like, you got, okay, what do I do with this? I want to. You just made me think of something, Dawn. I want to shout out to our ancestors as well, who, you know, we are the only in the room sometimes, but many of them were also the only. And when you were talking about the fathers and uncles of, you know, racist people who are now standing up to them, I began to think about, you know, my fathers and uncles. I had two uncles in Detroit who were the first members of the Pipe Fitters Union in Detroit. The Pipe Fitters was, you know, it was a great career in Detroit, you know, 50, 60 years ago. And if you were in the construction boom, you know, you could join the middle class. I mean, it was good, steady work. And union work in Detroit 50 years ago, you know, was really something. And a lot of people might be surprised to learn that it was segregated. Everybody could not work in there. And those are the stories that I grew up with. From people who had to learn to survive in a career field where they were not welcome, and where they had to fight and scrap every day. And I think you feel this, and I think we all feel this. That's what taught us, like our fathers and our grandfathers taught us to keep your head down, survive, make some money, and build a stable community and protect your children and do these things. And so we carry a lot of that with us at a time when we're not supposed to keep our head down anymore, you know, and they weren't trying to do harm to us. They were trying to help us survive, to not get killed by the police or not do those things. And one of the big things that the George Floyd stuff does for me is it says, we've been surviving and we've been having a wrong talk. I know this isn't what this happy hour is about, but we've been having a wrong talk with our kids to say, you know, keep your hands visible and do all these things and survive. And we've been surviving for a few decades, for a while now, a few generations, and we're still getting killed. So enough of that. It's time for us to start having influence over the hiring practices and over the workforce practices. And we need to be in the room when we're talking about promotions. We need to be on the boards. We need to be in the good IT positions and getting access to skills and all of that. So there's building being done. And I believe we're carrying on the legacy of those who came before us. And we could do more than survive now.
Absolutely. We got a question from Jerry on Twitter. He said, is being Black a valid barrier to entry? Is that an appropriate answer to say to someone? Jerry, could you word that in a different way or expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, please do, Jerry. I think we've had some of these experiences in these jobs. I had someone tell me a story today that he said that he was in an interview and somebody pulled him to the side and said, you know, you're not going to get this job because the hiring manager is racist and everything. But the team, we like you and we're going to take you out to lunch anyway. And it was funny. He said that he appreciated the honesty of the person so that he could relax. He knew he wasn't going to get the job. But for a long time, it has been clear that you were not going to get onto this team. And we've been facing that. So did Jerry reword that?
While he's rewording that, I will second what you just said about that, because there have been some wild experiences where I know people have been interviewed, like Black folks have gone through like the interview process, and I've been pulled aside and they're like, yo, between you and me, this person shouldn't be giving this interview. Like, they are not equipped to interview people of color, especially Black folks. And it's just like you bring that to the attention of the HR practice and their cycle, and they just kind of are like, well, it's too late now, or well,
Right.
this, that. And it's just kind of like, it is just so wild to me. And that's where it's like, with hiring practices, having a Black folk go through 4 or 5 rounds of interviews with all white folks, that is very dangerous. Like, that is extremely dangerous from a stance of just biases. And that's extremely dangerous to Black folks when it comes to like stereotype threat. And for those who might not know what stereotype threat is the notion of that we psychologically psych ourselves out when we think someone already has predetermined biases and racial notions against us. And we might not know that person, but because we have seen it and experienced it for so long, we are underperforming when we come across this person that we already perceive to look at us a certain way because we're Black. And so you have, 4 or 5 different rounds of interviews. You're definitely going to experience stereotype one way or another, and that's definitely going to cause you to underperform throughout an interview. But it's also the fact that like you might have 2 of the 4 be woke, and then the other 2 have a lot of like biases towards Black folks throughout that interview, not just ease into their decision or how they examine or have a dialogue with someone who is Black or a different color, ethnicity, or race from them. And so it's like the whole 4 or 5 rounds of interviews with all white folks, that definitely needs to change going forward. And it's so crazy because I saw it firsthand. Like there was somebody came up to me and was like, hey, this guy shouldn't be giving this Black person interviews just based off of side conversations I've had with him. And it's just like, man, it's just wild.
That was the nature of the conversation that I was having, that you do have organizations that are checking the box, and you might have a director or even the CEO who is coming and saying, we're going to do this. We're going to do this right now. And I want these people in the pool and that thing. But when you get with the team is going to decide whether you get into that organization and whether you succeed there. So I did see that Jerry reworded kind of what he was saying, that, especially as an entrepreneur, a lot of people ask, why haven't you gone to this source of capital? And not only as an entrepreneur, but, I think all of us with talent get asked, why haven't you gone over here? Are you missing out on this thing over here? And what he's saying is that I had heard that, that is not really going to be accessible to Black people. And we do have a green book. We have an unwritten knowledge of, you could go here and you could go there and you could get hired here and this place. They don't want you. They've made clear that they don't want you. And it takes a long, long time for an organization to overcome a new reputation that the word got out. Black people are not welcome here. So, yeah, to your first question, Jerry, I don't think that's a reasonable excuse or acceptable or anything. But the bottom line is that for up to now, that we've been trying to survive, and we don't have time to go running around everywhere. Mm-hmm. So we need to guide each other. And I think that's what's been happening. We've been saying, go here, don't go there. And we need to change that game up. Just one other thing I'll add to your question there also, there's a lot of grants and money coming from social media companies and corporations who have said, we're giving $1 million over here, we're giving $5 million over here. And somebody asked me, I said, are you going to go for some of that money? And it never even crossed my mind to go for that money. The money just floats above you and it's just being talked about in the media. We're not going to see any of that money, and that's my bias and everything. And I need to work on that. But I think that we have a certain bias that, money gets committed all the time. It's not going to get to some of these communities that we have come together to really argue for. So, that's not okay. But I think that we need to work together to erase our own biases on some of those things.
That's a good point, because it makes me think about, I remember talking to I don't know, it might have been Matthew, somebody, and it was around the time that we were getting ready for the conference and talking about like sponsorship and stuff like that. And people are like, yeah, we're gonna need to raise like X amount. And I'm like, well, you guys are crazy. Like there's no way we're gonna be able to raise that amount of money. I don't understand why that's even like the goal. And lo and behold, we raised that amount of money in a matter of 1 week. And I'm like, wow, it's really crazy, like how much money really is out there. And Doug, to your point, a lot of times it's not that we don't realize it's there, but we don't realize how accessible that it can be. And a kind of a piece of that, similar to what you were talking about earlier, and that we kind of pick and choose where we want to work. And I don't know that organizations or companies realize that we have options. And I say that in the sense of, just because I'm interviewing here and just because you offer me a job, like I don't have to take it, because there's a good chance I have a job offer here or 3 other places. Because the reality is, especially now, everybody is trying to hire quote unquote diversity in tech, especially. So I think companies, a lot of times and I don't like to say this, but a lot of times it seems like charity work almost. And I mean, people are going to be in for a rude awakening, because like as people, we have options, especially in this space. And I think the sooner that organizations realize that, hey, your focus is on hiring diverse talent, not just because it's the right thing to do, which it is, but also because there's value that is there. It's not about charity. It's not about meeting numbers. It's not about giving back to the community for underrepresented people. It's about like, oh, these are the best people out there, and other people know that too.
Yeah, so compete for them.
Exactly.
Right? Absolutely. So you better not try to lowball me on the salary, because I got 3 other places offering 10% more than that. And you brought up an excellent point just about the fundraising for the conference last year. And I know I've said this in Black Tech meetings. Sometimes I'm looking at all of the available funds for people who want to work with us, and I can't fathom certain things, like the amount of money people were willing to cut for us to do a conference. To me, it's like, all right, how do I spend all of this on a conference for the people? It's like I could probably spend like 10% of it, but then what are we going to do with the 90% to give back to the people through a conference or an event to help them level up? And it's just something that's kind of like
Apple Watches.
Yeah.
Yes, my Apple Watch.
That's what I'm saying. Like, let's just toss out Apple Watches to everybody. Everybody gets an Apple Watch.
You get an Apple Watch.
Yeah.
Matthew, I kind of wanted to touch on something that you mentioned earlier when you were talking about the interviewing process and just the power of not necessarily just diversity, because I've been the Black girl in the room while people are getting interviewed and not really have any power while I'm in that room. I'm just there as just the diversity, not really included. So I just definitely think that inclusion and power behind that are my presence is, something in this moment that is like awesome, because I think that we kind of maybe we had the representation and presence, but not really necessarily the power behind it. And I know that we discussed like power earlier when we were like, okay, there is you didn't realize the power that you had at the time, but it feels strange to have an opinion about a candidate and see somebody interview very well and come across well, and they just kind of get ignored just because it's a Black man. And, with me being a Black woman, I'm not necessarily the same threat in the office as a Black man. And I've realized that. And, not to be having the power to advocate for that person or this guy or this woman, that is something I hope that this moment changes in history, that, that presence kind of wasn't there, that power wasn't necessarily there before, at least in my experience.
That's a good point about inclusion. Like, Charlotte and I have been talking a lot about like inclusion and kind of what does it really mean, and like how do people actually define inclusion? Because like you said, Don, like they invite you to the interview, so you're there, like they're including you at the table, quote unquote, this metaphoric table, whatever it is.
Right.
But like, do they actually care to include your opinion in their decision? Or are they just having you sit there because they think that your opinion is going to be in alignment with